From Ohio be like, you have seasoning here?
All right, let's get started. So, hello everyone. My name is Tenchi. I'm the head of research. Right, you guys should probably all know me by now. I hope. So today I'm going to be covering Windows Event Viewer and just kind of the basics of how to use it, and kind of a basic blue team tactic in using Windows Event Viewer to kind of filter through logs and certain actions that might be indicative of red team activity. Okay. So here's another info slide about me, the usual, right? Vegas, 30-year, Windows, and I'm retired. So here I am teaching you guys. So let's just cover the basics of Event Viewer. So Event Viewer is kind of the how Windows logs events within its operating system. More? Okay. So Event Viewer is a component of the Microsoft's Windows NT operating system that lets administrators and users view the event logs on a local or remote machine. Windows Event Viewer shows logs of applications, system messages, and that includes errors, information messages, and warnings. So we're going to cover the categories of the Windows Event Viewer, and as well as the different types of messages that it shows, as well as the Event IDs, which kind of specify what's happening on the system. It kind of breaks it down into different IDs of this is happening and this is happening. So how do I use Event Viewer? Okay, so the usual, you can just open it up with your Windows search and you can just type in Event Viewer. You can also do it the Elite way. You can open it through the run command. You can also open it through the run command. Event VWR. You can just type it like that. You can do .exe. You can do .msc. You can also do it through the command line and PowerShell. So we're going to cover the 5 types of events. The first 3 are shown here. So first up, we got information. So this is going to let you know that an application service or driver has completed an operation. Ooh, I should have probably covered the categories first. But we're going to go with this anyways. Next up, we got warnings. So it informs you of a situation that is probably significant, but not yet serious problem. An example is low disk space will trigger a warning event. Also, if a interface is not properly connected or if it's been disconnected, that might be a thing as well. Then next up, we have an error indicates a serious problem that may cause loss of functionality or loss of data. So I retract that previous statement. This will probably show up as an error. So no interfaces. So if you like, your system can't access the interface, the NIC itself, it'll probably throw an error event. And then you have successful audit and a failure of audit. I didn't list those here because you don't see those a lot too much. You'll see it in the security category. But successful audit is that some event was properly authenticated and it was good to go. A failure is just that authentication failed in some process. So this is the example right here. So you have the different events. This category is probably application. So here we have event 7000 from the Service Control Manager. The Steam client service failed to start due to the following error. And it's going to show you an error message, right? Along with some information that I'm going to talk about later. Okay. Also, an important thing, right? The dates, the times itself, right? It's a great thing about logs. It just shows you the time as well and which process it's calling from, like the Service Control Manager. Okay, good stuff. It's good to like attribute those different aspects of logs, right? Especially if you're a blue teamer, you don't want to write that for your IR report, right? It's very, very good stuff. Sorry. So I should have probably covered this earlier, but there's certain event categories within Event Viewer, so covering different things within the operating system. So they're classified into a few default categories based on the components at fault. Different components for which events are logged include the system, the security, and applications. There's also another category for setup, which is pretty low level stuff. Kind of has to do with the BIOS, sorry, and the boot up process. There's also forwarded events, which in case you want to forward your logs to a centralized logging client, or sorry, logging server, so you can aggregate all the logs and just kind of see what's going on in the whole network instead of having just looking through each client individually. Some application log events are in a custom category instead of logging them into the default applications category. So the one example I showed previously, how it showed the Steam service, the Steam client wasn't executed properly or didn't boot properly, that was probably in with the default applications category, just because it attributed to the service control manager, which is a default component of Windows, the Windows operating system that handles the services. Right. So more of the individual categories will be something like PowerShell, different services running on the box that is not normally installed. So I'm going to go up next. I'm going to talk about that in a later slide. So application is going to be any event logged by an application. These are determined by the developers while developing the application, so they can either choose to have it. I guess they can choose. Different areas if they want to put it in the applications or the external ones. An error while starting an application gets recorded by the application log. System, any event logged by the operating system. So failure to start a drive during a startup is logged under system logs. Security, an event that matters about the security of the system, so valid logons and logoffs. Any file deletion are logged under this category. So now we're going to talk about the external categories. So how I talked about different services that are running separately that are not installed by default. So directory services, that's a category under external application logs. It records events within a Active Directory domain. So this log is only available on the domain controllers, which are the centralized kind of administrative client within a domain. We're going to cover Active Directory and that whole how it works in advanced Windows next semester. So stay tuned to that. Very important stuff if you're on the local area network on blue teams. Looking through these for unauthenticated logins, things like that are very important, or accounts being elevated to a certain privilege will be listed here, specifically for domain accounts. So that's going to be your domain users, domain admins, schema admins, and enterprise admins. Okay. Again, not so important about what those groups are. They're just elevated beyond the regular domain user privileges. The DNS server, so DNS logs are pretty important. You can find a lot of stuff through here, like any, so it records events for DNS servers and name resolutions. So any IP address that has a DNS name related to it will be logged in this category. But this is, again, only available for the host that has this service installed or and running. We're going to take a look at different components during the demo time, some useful tips. So then we kind of break it down to event IDs. So there's a lot of event IDs. There's almost, let's see, it's 1,000, right? Probably around 1,000 different event IDs. So you see this range right here. Oh, that should be 500 to 800, by the way. Sorry, I'll fix that. Windows loves backwards compatibility. So the NTFS is kind of built around this whole concept of having backwards compatibility for legacy operating systems and legacy software. So it's sometimes vulnerable if you don't set it up correctly. Like SMB version 1 is enabled by default, so it doesn't have proper authentication. But for more recent operating systems, it's going to have SMB2 enabled as well. So it'll still have that level of authentic security, but you have to remember that that support is there as well. So looking at that configurations is very important, just as a side note. So Windows NT events are going to be your core events that were created before kind of the newer services came to be. So that's going to include your some examples. Probably firewall stuff is an example that I found, and it's very useful. And then the newer events, that's going to be your a lot of your authentication stuff. So the newer methods of authentication that have been included with newer operating systems are going to be included in this range of event IDs. Okay. Couple of the important ones I've listed here. I've listed about what's that? 10? No. 30? Yeah, around 30 events. So some important ones going to be log on and log off. So event ID 4624 and 4625. These are probably important. You want to make sure you only have accounts logging in to clients that they're supposed to. If there's failed logon attempts, it could be indicative of red team activity trying to use default credentials to access your host. All right, so very important to kind of attribute that to for your incident response reports. So like I talked about, the lower 1000 range, so 840 to 86 is kind of your legacy event IDs that kind of attribute to the basic part of the operating system. So Windows firewall edits, so this whole range kind of describes what part of the Windows firewall has been changed, if the default policy has been changed, if it's been open to listening, if a certain port has been open to listening. The event there's an event ID that will track that. If it's been turned off and on, those are pretty important. This is probably something you want to look into if you're blue teaming for tomorrow at UB. Account management. So this is probably good if you want to make sure that accounts are in the groups that they're supposed to be in. So 4728 user added to global groups. All right, so that's going to be your big groups that are attributed to the operating system. So that's going to be administrators, remote desktop users, and administrators. Local groups, that's going to be user-defined groups within the host itself, not in the domain or anywhere else, just on the host. So that's going to be your just default users, right? User-defined groups, so whether that be like family users or this office users, right? Those are kind of local groups. Or the office might be a little bit of a global group because of Active Directory and how it allows you to easily group those users together. So office users will probably be more of a global group rather than a local group, right? And then 4756 universal group. So there's kind of an overlap with global group and universal right here. So that's going to be your administrators, your domain admins, some higher level things, probably NT system, universal group, right? You also got trusted installer. Those are some of the universal groups, right? Okay. So yeah, it's kind of a aggregate of the event IDs that are really important and that you should keep track of. And that's kind of it. That's gonna cover all the basics of Windows Event Viewer. Any questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you. And I'm going to transition over to demo time. We're going to look at some, you guys are going to see me use Event Viewer. Okay. Give me a second. Can you guys see my screen? Is it up there? All right. Hopefully, my Windows VM does not shut down. An interesting thing that I found out is that if your evaluation period of your Windows VM expires, so if it's past the expiration date, your Windows VM will only stay on for exactly or just about an hour, and then it'll automatically shut down. I don't know what service or what kind of process is doing that. Yeah, it's terrible. Oops. Do 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 do. Sorry, this is taking a little long. Okay, so let's open up Event Viewer, shall we? Event Viewer. Yep. Oh. It's kind of... that was kind of weird. Okay, so there we have it. We have the 5 categories that I discussed before. So we got application security and system, as well as setup and forwarded events. As you can see, I'm not forwarding all my logs to anywhere, so it's practically empty. Right. Setup, that's going to be more of a on the low level side. So if we kind of take a look at that, we can see the events. So kind of dealing with that low level stuff. So you see there's some packages installed. I think I have Chocolatey installed in here, so that's why it's showing up. Or no, oh yeah. So if you can see right here, the client ID is Windows Update Agent. So this is kind of updating Windows. Wow, pretty cool. So you have your events in here, and then you have your details on this lower panel. You can also refresh, and you can also filter. So probably a kind of extending this event log presentation. I'll probably do an advanced event log kind of thing where kind of filtering through logs, probably using Event Viewer through the command line. Probably going more in depth about sysmon as well, because sysmon is good. Okay. Let's take a look at some application logs. All right, so this is going to be your... So we got the VSS server. I don't know what that is. Let's find something that I know. Oh, we got an error. Pretty cool. It did not resolve a host name, so I must have been pinging something earlier today. Or going to a website. All right, another error in hostname resolution. Cool stuff. All right, let's take a look at some security. As you can see, this is the different type of message. It's an audit success. So something's running as a system right here. Okay, pretty cool. So you can see the additional information. So we got, of course, your log name, your source, event ID. So 4672. So what is that? Can anyone tell me in the audience what 4672 is for an event ID? Oh wait, I didn't have that on here. Never mind. So we can do event IDs. So there's also a great resource that I use for kind of looking up event IDs. So I'm going to quickly look up 4672. So that's going to be a special privilege assigned to new logon. So yeah, it tells you right here, task category. Cool. Awesome. Okay, and then you got your external logs here. You got hardware events, Internet Explorer, Microsoft OpenSSH. I have PuTTY installed, so that's why OpenSSH is there as an external log. Doing print diagnostics. I don't know what that is. But then I have PowerShell. Okay, this is probably the most important thing for blue teamers to kind of understand and look at. Windows PowerShell. There's a couple of options in global group policy. Sorry, not group global. Group policy has a couple of options that make life easier for blue teamers and kind of looking at event logs and what kind of things are being run through PowerShell. So if we just take the look at the basic PowerShell logs, right? Let's scroll all the way down to see. That's 2019. Let's not do that. Okay. So this is a PowerShell command. Okay, let's see if we have a PowerShell command that we can see. All right. Yep. Okay, there we go. So we have a script name. All right, I was probably executing some command in here. So that was probably for my 202 class. I was executing some assembly, or sorry, no, some program I had on here, some C program. Okay, let's try running something. So let's might be a good opportunity to look at security logs. I just authenticated with user access control. So let's kind of take a look at security. What time is it? 11:56. Guess it didn't show up here. Let's refresh. Oh, guess not. Strange. Should have updated there because I just clicked yes to elevate my PowerShell to administrator. Don't know why that didn't show up. But let's run something. Let's see here. Let's go cd just home real quick. Get net IP address. Right. So there, again, net IP address is going to list out all your interfaces, right? So let's take a look at PowerShell. It's not being updated. Why? Why is it not being updated? You know what? I probably don't have it turned on. Okay, so I'm going to just show you guys quickly to turn on the key options that I use for blue team competition. So I'm going to go to GP edit group policy. Let me open that up. Windows components, and then we're going to go to Windows PowerShell. All right, so so you want to turn some of these on, okay? So you're not going to need set default source path for update help because we don't want to track that. So PowerShell script block logging, okay? So what this kind of does is, say for example, red team or some malicious actor encodes their PowerShell commands. So like in base64, right? That's usually how they kind of encode their commands. What script blocking is going to do is, regardless if it's encoded or not, it's going to return you the full command unencrypted. So we want that enabled. Great, and any scripts that have been executed. We did see a script there, but we're going to turn that on as well. Okay. Oops. And then okay. Right, so we only let's do remote signed for our script execution. And then we also want module log. There you go. See if any modules have been added or deleted. It's kind of important. You need your specific PowerShell modules. So for example, there's the Active Directory module to kind of use Active Directory commands through PowerShell. Let's just do all. Yeah. Quick and easy. Okay, now let's try again. Oops. Okay, my Windows VM does not like me, so I guess this isn't happening. That kind of concludes Event Viewer. Any other questions you guys might have? Okay, that's it. Thank you. Next up, we're gonna have Emmanuel come up. Just give us a quick second, and we're gonna get that set up.